Hello everybody, this is tired middle of the night Myrta here. I have been unable to do a lot of things because work. And one thing that I was able to do at work is listen to the book whose cover you can see on my screen right now because that has been on Audible. And I didn't actually know that that is a book that exists that's on Audible until they announced the physical release, and I was like, wait, that's a thing? I like Vampire the Masquerade. Of course I want to read 3 short stories set in the universe. So I thought, you know what, that's an Audible, let me listen to it. And let me make up my mind. So first of all, from my perspective, this is worth it. This is worth as a book about as much as visual novels are worth as a Vampire the Masquerade product. So, you know, it kind of depends on what you like. Now, this review, I'm not gonna divulge like the main big happening of every single story, right? But I am gonna be talking about them, and I'm gonna be talking about them in as much of a general term as I can, but it's still kind of spoiling yourself to be watching this review. Just you know, just so you are aware. So let's begin. And the first about 3 hours-ish of the book is Genevieve's Gorey checks A Sheep Among Wolves story. And this story, it's kind of corny because it is set from the perspective of a first-year university student that is human. And I think that they write a believable teenager, and there is quite a character development arc. I wouldn't say that the main character is necessarily a good person, but there is a development arc in how they start and how they end that is a fairly good and believable development arc for them, but it brings you to that very mature mindset that you might have had when you were 15, 16, 17, where the stakes are escalating, but they are justifying the stakes over time. And at the end, they're working with the anarchs. So that's yep, that actually captured the spirit of the anarchs pretty well, probably. It's just that it made me remember my own teenagehood, which made me cringe a tiny bit. So the main character is Cleo, and that is not short for Cleopatra, but I forget what it is short for, but people do sometimes mock and say that it's short for Cleopatra, so that's definitely something it is not short for. Cleo has depression, and she is on meds, and probably has major social anxiety, and this is the first time that she's away from home, and she goes to university to study a subject that she didn't want to study. Instead of studying art, she went studying philosophy, and she nearly fails subjects, spends majority of her time watching Netflix inside libraries. She's very shy about the person that she has to share a dorm room with because they're the popular kid and their friends are assholes to her. She eats a lot of food. Eventually, she ends up joining this little after-school group that's kind of there to raise people's confidence, I guess. But eventually they end up filtering the students that they think would be helpful for them, and that the people running the group, they have, let's just say, some supernatural influences, and Of course, Cleo gets filtered into that group of people that would be useful for these people of supernatural influences. And because she is so charmed by at the very least one of these people, and because she's receiving the praise and the acknowledgement that she craves so badly, she escalates in what she is doing over time for them, and her confidence rises as a result. And as her confidence rises, she takes care of her looks more, she loses weight because she forgets to eat, she gets better at her schoolwork because she has a motivator, she has something that keeps her going, and what keeps her going is not something very nice, because she does end up doing quite a few dangerous and eventually outright illegal activities that are very harmful to other people. Like I said, Cleo's not a very objectively nice person, but you can see how that changes her as a character, how she grows as a person, how she grows into herself and learns to stand up for herself because she ends up being involved in all that. So it is a good character development arc, but at the same time we are talking about a teenage girl here, and we are talking about a short story that deals mostly with them just being human. Yeah, pretty much, and it's teenage stuff. So it kinda it put a small smile on my face because it is a good way of writing teenagers, but it is not the kind of book that I would normally have read just because of the characters' immature attitudes. Now, this is something that happens after, like, the super big grand finale of the book, okay? Like, this is the last bit. And the last bit kind of shows just how immature of a mentality the character has. Because the last bit, or big hurrah, or like big complete change of character, is that a bully girl whose biggest crime was leaving a fucking burrito on this character's pillow, right? That is like the most that she has done. She has left a soggy burrito on her pillow, which made the character cry and throw away her pillow and get a new one. The punishment for that is death. Can you think back to all of the dumb shit that you have done as a child? I can think back on some dumb shit that I even said 3 years ago that I might have changed my mind on. I can think back on my stubbornness. I can think back on a lot of things. I was a spiky person. I still am a spiky person, but I have mellowed out a bit. Imagine if the punishment for that was death. Jesus Christ, if you want that pure teenage attitude of, yeah, that person was mean to me, they deserve to die, this is the story for you. But honestly, it comes off as sweet. It's well written, but it's written from that teenage perspective, which looking back as an adult is like, oh, my kiddos, you have not seen life. You have not seen life. Next story is Cassandra Caw's Fine Print. Now, this shows, well, the kind of struggles that you would go through as a Ventru, but at the same time, the character is quite potty-mouthed, and he's not a very nice person, and he fights against everything at, like, every corner, to a point where his story was quite unpalatable for me until about 60% through, where he started doing all the dumb shit and the things just started really spiraling out of control. And the finale for this character, in my opinion, is very appropriate, because effectively he made a contract that he was gonna skirt out on because he is the big boss. And he always treated himself as the big boss, and he treated other people as inconsequential. Let's just put it like that. And at the end, he has to sit down, chew on his own ego, and do precisely what he signed the contract to do. Effectively, it is a story of I have signed up for immortality, and my dumbass has not thought things through, like, at all. At all. It's very hard one to digest. I would probably put Sheep Among Wolves at like 4 out of 5. I would put Fine Print at like 3 out of 5. Once again, it's entertaining like 60-70% through when things start actually spiraling for the main character, but up until that point, it's like, I am following a really unpalatable guy. I am following a guy that's literally a piece of shit. I am following a guy who had so little brain that he has signed a contract for immortality together with relocation to Iceland, which has been his own idea, because there are like 2 months of summer where the sun doesn't set, and he really wanted to live that. And it's like, fucking dude, you signed up to become a vampire, and you thought it didn't even pass through your head that you might need to stay out of sunlight? What? How? I mean, even if nobody like explained you the specific types for World of Darkness, surely that is like a common mythos, so you would at least think to ask about that instead of just putting it into your contract of, yes, I want to be in Iceland because I want to see the 2 months of sun never setting. Like, that's a good idea for a vampire in any way, shape, or form. It's like it's a character trait of his, where other people tell him common sense things, and he just nopes right out of them, trying his own thing regardless. To a point where there's this whole saga at one point, and I do say saga because everything that happens with this character is incredibly drawn out. Like, it takes a long while to get anywhere going. It's like, if this was like a roller coaster, you would be like riding slightly sideways, like up a mountain, until like 70% through the book you're finally on, and like the drop is like almost vertical, so you're just like, whee! But then you're like, that was a short ride. That was a very short ride, because just when I started dropping, that ride just stopped. Stopped. But anyways, as I was saying, there's even a whole saga of his house assistants that worked for vampires before, that he has gotten in his place, that he requested for them all to be of specific hair, eye color, and in cat suits with stilettos. Once again, highly unpalatable guy. They told him that he cannot eat human food anymore. They told him that he cannot, wouldn't want to, so he shouldn't even try, right? Well, this guy, like, loses his shit and has this whole saga where he goes to 7-Eleven, buys potato salad, potato chips, and soda, and comes back and forces himself to eat that, and then vomits that back out, can't stop vomiting, ends up being taken to a thin blood doctor that just goes, "Don't come here again. You need to figure out what kind of blood you need to drink, you weird ventru dude, bro. Don't come here again. You're gonna be fine." You know, that sort of thing. So effectively, I can't actually tell you what interesting happens in this section of the book without giving out all of the plot, because as I said, it takes a very long time to build up, and then it just goes like straight down with all of the plot unraveling all at once. So I'm just gonna say that it is about a guy who named himself Duke. Yes, whose real name seems to be Marmalade, and he takes real offense to when people refer to him by his real name, makes a contract to make tech for a Ventru in exchange of immortality and a specifically built mansion in Iceland, to which he will be relocated to live there with no worries about aging or money forevermore. And then he was never planning on delivering on his side of the contract, and he tried to get out of Iceland because, yeah, send yourself to a friggin' tiny island that you can only reach with a plane, effectively creating yourself a prison, then go, fuck you all, now that I have what I want, I am gonna get out of here. And of course he can't. Of course he can't. He learns some really good character lessons. He grows a lot as a character. Like I said, this book is pretty well made. This book is pretty well written. Character development, as far as all characters are concerned, really. But he's just such a piece of shit. It's really not just a piece of shit, but a dumb piece of shit. So it's really, really hard to listen to a book about this character. So that's also a sign of good writing in a way, because you don't want to write goody two-shoes that are absolutely perfect. That's not how you're supposed to be writing characters, especially not in World of Darkness. So props to Cassandra Khaw for making Duke extremely unlikable, and props to Cassandra Khaw for making Duke grow as a person. But Jesus Christ, you could probably cut like 30% out of this, no problem. Be completely fine with it. And nothing would have been lost. Now, for the last bit, we're going to Caitlin Starling's The Land of Milk and Honey, and this segment, the whole segment, just made the whole book absolutely worth it. 5 out of 5. We are following Toreador, who has a blood farm. It is a commune, that's off the grid, that's supporting artists, but not only that, they're also supporting homeless people and so on and so forth. They share their chores in a bit, they raise animals there, and donation of blood is optional. And sometimes a commune member here and there disappears, but for the most part, they're being treated very, very humanely and nicely. But the main character's problem is that she's kind of seeing them as animals. But at the same time, he is just written so perfectly as a Toreador, because you can just... there's so much sight and smell and sound that's written into this book as she talks about working with the animals and working with people, as she obsesses over a girl, as she kind of falls in love, as she deals with a thin blood that comes along to live in this commune, as she engages in art, as she talks about what we later find out is her sire. She is just Toreador through and through, and while she grapples with her own beast, the world is out to get her. The world is out to get her, and at the end of the book, we figure out that there has been this huge plot that just encompassed every aspect of her life, that took away from her absolutely everything that she ever had. At the end of the book, she is destroyed. Absolutely destroyed, and you can see that unfold bit by bit through the eyes of a passionate, artistic vampire that's kind of in love. It's just trying their best to navigate the whirlwinds that are thrown at them. It's just delicious. Absolutely delicious, because it is written so perfectly for a world of darkness, for Vampire the Masquerade, because it encompasses that unfairness, that darkness so perfectly to a character that, despite their flaws, they're not that bad. They really aren't. You really feel for them. Unlike the other two, you really feel for this Toreador. You do. And they're just so perfectly written as their clan. It was absolutely amazing. So there you go. These are my impressions of Walk Among Us. I am so sorry that I'm not spoiling more, but all three of these stories, especially the last one, because I don't want to. If I reveal too much, I am revealing the full book to you, which I don't feel. I don't want to reveal the whole book to you, because this is a book that's better to be engaged in yourself. Really. So overall, I would say that this is a 4 out of 5. Middle of the book is by far the weakest. Caitlin Starling's The Land of Milk and Honey especially should be listened to anyone that ever wanted to play a Toreador to get inside the mind of one, because it's like perfect Toreador. That's what the book encompasses. It encompasses the absolutely perfect Toreador, not in the fact that they have no flaws, but in the fact that they're flawed just in the vampiric sense and in the sense that they're a Toreador. That's their flaws. That's their main thing, but at the same time, it's also so deep that you're not like feeling like you're reading some sort of like superficial character. You're feeling like you're reading a really well-developed Toreador. That's what you're feeling like you're reading, or in this case, listening, because the physical version is not out yet, which for me is absolutely perfectly fine, because I can listen to books while at work. Effectively, that's my thing. So yes, I hope that this has been useful. And I am gonna go now and finish whatever the heck I was doing before, which mostly was my other side gig. So thank you for watching, and I hope I'm gonna see you the next time. Toodaloo.